Good evening, StreamYard and YouTube fans. I have to apologize for my last broadcast, which you won't see because I messed up. For some reason or other, within the first two or three innings, I messed up and made a mistake, and it was irrecoverable, and so I deleted it, and you won't see it. It won't be part of my list of uh, videos. So we're going to give Pavilion 14 a second chance. We're having the um, Pittsburgh 1935 Pittsburgh Crawfords and the 1916 Indianapolis ABCs. Um, This content is not meant for kids. It's adult friendly only. Um, Today's game is brought to you by uh, Phil's Friday Night Fights. This is going to be the very first one this Friday, and it's also kind of in an indirect way sponsored by Glory Days of Boxing. Um, Anthony did an awesome job, and the quality of the cards are great. It came in like 3 days, and I was very well pleased. Switch mic here for a sec. My first matchup, my lineup card for the Friday night fights is Ray Mancini versus Dooku Kim. He's from Korea. And the thing about these two guys is Mancini wound up killing Dooku Kim in a fight. It was a very sad tragedy, and it changed pretty much all of boxing. And Ray Mancini was never really the same after that. It got to him mentally, and he even though he went on and fought and had a good career and everything, he just wasn't the same. My second lightweight matchup of the night is Hector Camacho Macho versus Philip Indo, I guess, or Endow or something. But he's the only Philip I could find in the card list. And since it's Phil's Friday night fights, I figured it would be perfect. Um, yeah, that's those were my first two bouts as far as lightweights, and I wanted you to know. I wanted you to know that my lightweight bouts will be 12 rounds, and my middleweight and heavyweight fights are going to be 15 rounds. I figure it'll take me about 2 hours to play these games, but my lightweight bouts will both be 12 rounds, and that's exactly what happened as a result of Mancini killing Dooku Kim. Is that instead of lightweight rounds being 15, they backed them to 12 rounds. My middleweight is Eddie McGordy versus Rocky Graciano. And the thing about that is the Eddie McGordy is kind of a tribute to my brother. My brother's name's Eddie, so I figured Eddie McGordy would be great, and the Rocky Graciano is that's a tribute to the movie Rocky in that. And finally my heavyweight matchup is Ezra Charles. It's going to be Ezra Charles. That's Ezra Charles, and that's going to be versus Muhammad Ali. And the thing about Ezra Charles is his nickname is the Cincinnati Cobra. So he's from Cincinnati, and his training facility is on West Liberty Street in Cincinnati. And on that particular building, they have a mural of Ezra Charles, and it's one of the best pictures that you can find, sports pictures that you can find. It looks one of those Leroy Neiman print type pictures. It's awesome. And Muhammad Ali is from Louisville, so it's the idea of Ohio versus Kentucky, which I figured is perfect for my first round matchup for the so those are like the card. That's the 4-card ticket for Friday night. I wanted to let Rob know that I really want him to show up Friday, and that's at 8:00. And Rob, hey Sean, Rob, that is my email address. You can give me an email message because you asked me about the red, white, and blue racing. I need to know what traits or attributes that I need to select from and all that because I'm being one of his new rookie drivers for his red, white, and blue racing this season. And I need to know what kind of traits and that I need to select from. Don't forget, if you like what you see, click on subscribe so that you can get notifications on what's coming up or when I'm on and that. Good to see you, Sean. We're going a second round at this. I inadvertently, what happened the first time I tried this is I messed up as far as batting or something, and rather than start right over, then I just figured I'd take a break for a little bit. I had a really rough morning, and I just really wasn't into doing a broadcast at the time, so I kind of took a nap, chilled out, went to church, had fun a little bit, and then came back, and now I'm back at it, giving you a fresh. Well, we're re-rolling the game that's intended, anyway. Our matchup is between the 1935 Pittsburgh Crawfords and the 1916 Indianapolis ABCs. It's the closest I could get. A friend of mine at church told me that there was a Negro league called the Indianapolis Clowns or the Indiana Clowns. And I looked through my new Negro League set, and the 1916 Indianapolis ABCs was the closest I could get. And the Pittsburgh Crawfords is a tribute to Stratomatic Delaware. He's a big Pittsburgh buff, so I decided to take the Pittsburgh Crawfords there. This is Negro League Baseball. And for Indiana, we have William Desmukas, and he is an A. grade A pitcher with a Z notation. And for the Pittsburgh Crawfords, wait a minute, is that right? Yeah, sure is. That's Satchel Paige. He's an A pitcher with an X and double Z notation. No, I didn't. I was at church, but I did hear that the 49ers beat the Vikings. I think it was 27-10. So I did hear the final outcome of the game. Our score currently is 0-0. Indianapolis is fielding 2, which means when Pittsburgh is up, we have to look at the fielding 2 charts. And the Indianapolis ABCs will be looking at fielding 1 chart throughout. Yeah. Our batting lineup for the I got to get my cards here. Our batting lineup for Pittsburgh is Chester Williams, William Perkins, Andrew Patterson, William Johnson, Oscar Charleston. Now, I have to put this out there that when I was selecting the lineups for today's game, I selected Charleston for Pittsburgh. And then when I was looking at the Indianapolis ABCs, yeah, I hear Satchel was a beast. But when I was looking at the ABCs, I came across the same name. And I went, wait a minute, I've seen that name before. So I looked at my lineup cards for the other team, and sure enough, this Oscar Charleston is on both the Pittsburgh Crawfords and the Indianapolis ABCs. So because I originally selected him for Pittsburgh, he's in the Pittsburgh lineup, and he's not in the Indianapolis lineup. Our outfielder, Crutchfield, comes after Charleston, then Bell, then Bankhead, and Page. And the thing about Page is, believe it or not, he was on, and Jerry Ball told me that he was on a AAA team, and that AAA team, believe it or not, was called the Miami Marlins. And I kind of think that's a tribute to when the Florida Marlins switched it to the Miami Marlins. I think it's kind of a tribute to that minor league team. And the Indianapolis ABCs, they have DeMoss, Clark, Watts. Now, they have a Benjamin Taylor, and then they have a James Taylor, and that's basically what I would call the Smash Brothers, I guess. I'm kind of way I look at it, I don't know if they're brothers or not, but I'm just figuring them as the Smash Brothers. We'll see on that. We got Shively after James Taylor. We got George Brown. We have Malarcher. And then we have Dismukis, the pitcher. And he is like I said earlier, he's an A with a Z notation, and Page is an A with an X and a Y, an X and a double Z notation. And Jerry wanted me to make sure that you guys got kind of the field and could see the dice. So I kind of tried to change things up a bit as far as my camera, and you'll see here in a second. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Our first batter tonight is Williams. We're in the top of the first. Our first roll is a 21. And we're looking at fielding 2. Oh, and that is first base, an error on the first baseman. And that will be, and that means that he will, Williams will make it to, let's see here. That means Williams will make it to first here. Yeah, he'll make it to first. And that will bring up Perkins. '24 with man at first. And a 24, as you can see, is a 13. That's a strikeout on Perkins. Okay. We got Patterson up. And that's 54. And that's a 32. Fielding 2. Fly out to right field. The runner holds. And that will bring up Johnson. And that's double ones, which means we roll again. And that is Johnson hits a home run. And that will make the score 2-0 in favor of Pittsburgh. Two nothing Pittsburgh. Base is empty. Charleston is the batter. And that's 62. And that is a 22. And 62, which is a 22, which here is, that's first baseman to the pitcher, so that's 3-1. And that's the end of the top of the first. We go to the bottom of the first. We go to the bottom of the first with as I switch cards here. DeMoss is the first batter up. Scores 2-0. Bottom of the first. DeMoss is up. And hey, good to see everybody here. Good to see Sean. Good to see Ken Castro. And our first, and we get double sixes, which means we roll again. And we get a 15, and that's a 2 with fielding 1. And that's fly out to left field. 9. That'll be bring Clark to the plate. And that's 61, and that's 24. And that will be out at first. That's short to first. 6-3. Brings Watts up to the plate. And that is 56. And that is a 34. And that's a fly out to shortstop. And we are 3 up and 3 down for the ABCs in the bottom of the first. And that brings us back. That'll bring us to the top of the second. We're in the top of the second. That brings Crutchfield up for Pittsburgh. That brings Crutchfield up for Pittsburgh. And we'll see how it turns out here. That's a 32, and that is a 26, and we're looking at fielding 2. And that will be second base to first base. 4-3. And that puts Bell up at the plate. $23. It's 27. And let's see. No, that doesn't affect it. So that's third to first. And that will bring up Bankhead. It's 43. And it's 29. And that will be pitcher to first baseman. 1-3. And that takes us to the bottom of the second. Right. That brings up Benjamin Taylor. Yes, a lot of historical threads with these teams. Like I was saying at the beginning, maybe before you hear Ken Castro, is that Page, he was on a minor league team that was called the Miami Marlins, which I think might be one of the reasons why the Florida Marlins switched it to the Miami Marlins in honor of that particular minor league team. Not positive, but it's a thought. Taylor gets a 51. And that is a 10 with an A pitcher and bases empty. And that will be a single for Taylor. So that puts a man at first. So that puts Taylor at first. The first half of the bash, what I call the bash or smash brothers there. And that'll bring up his friend there, James. James gets a 55, which is an 8. It's a grade A pitcher. And that will be a foul out to the third baseman, which will bring up Shively. And that's 64 for Shively, which is a 9. And that is with a guy at first. Let's see, a 9. That is a single. So we now have men at first and second for the Indianapolis ABCs. And that will bring up Brown. We just have one out here. Brown's up with men at first and second. That's 34. And that is a 31. Let's see, 31 with men runners in first and second. That's a fly out to center field. So nobody goes anywhere. That brings up Malarcher. I can get to him. There's Malarcher. Runners at first and second. We got 33, and that is a 7. And the grade A pitcher says single to right, runner at second scores. So single, man at second scores. And so we have first and second. And that is 8 there. And that will bring up the pitcher. Demucus. And he unfortunately has to bat because of the situation here. And that is a 16, and he struck out, and that ends the inning. But the ABCs managed to get a run in the bottom of the second here. So now the game is 2-1 in favor of the Crawfords. Right. Okay. Okay, in the top of the third, Page bats for the first time. Nobody on base. He gets a 35, and that is a strikeout. And that brings the top of the order up. Brings Williams up to the plate. I don't know anyone on these. Well, other than Satchel Paige, Tony, I don't either. And Oscar Charleston really was on both of these, but because I had already selected him for the Pittsburgh team, he's on playing for Pittsburgh, and he's not playing for the ABCs. Okay, we have 12 for Williams, and that's 25, and fielding 2. And that will be an out at first, and that's second to first. Which brings up Perkins. And that is a 12, 25. And that is an out at first as well. As a matter of fact, it's the same out at first. And that will take us to the bottom of the third inning. And which brings up the top of the lineup for the ABCs. And let's see what we get here. We get a 65, which is a 35, and fielding 1, and that is a ground out to the first baseman, which now brings up Clark. And that is, a 46, which is a 12. And in in fielding 1, that's a third baseman to first baseman. That's 5-3, which brings up Watts. And we have a 36, which is a 33. And that, let me see here. Fly out to second baseman. Nope. Yeah, that's a fly out to the second baseman. And that ends the third. Okay. Yep. Means we are in the top of the fourth. Okay, top of the fourth. We have Patterson up. Patterson up for the Pittsburgh Crawfords. Score is still 2-1 Crawfords. And that is a 61, which is a 36, and fielding 2. And that is a walk. Patterson gets on with the walk. Let's bring Johnson up. And we have a man at first now. And that is a 16, which is a 28. It says out at first, runner to second. So we now have a runner at second. And that's second to first. Which would be 4-3. Runner goes to, okay, and that's by 4. That brings up Charleston. And we have a runner at second now. And that's a 53, which is 20. And that's runner out at, okay, 53 to 20. And that's out at first, runner to third. So we got another 4-3, but the runner goes to third. Which brings Crutchfield up. We have a runner at third. All right. And that is a 64. And that is a strikeout. Of all the times to get a strikeout. Oh, man at third base and you strike out. Wow. And this will bring up the first half of the what I'm deeming the Bass Brothers here. And we're in the bottom of the fourth. And that's 13, which is a 22. And that's out at first. That's first baseman to the pitcher. That's 3-1, which brings up James Taylor. And no, not the singer James Taylor. Why is Appa my favorite? It's not really. I do Appa because I had to get rid of my Strat set because of everything that was going on. I was afraid that somebody might come along and decide to take it, so I got rid of it so that somebody else could use it and have fun with it. And I'm currently thinking about when I can afford it, not just yet, though. I want to get inside pitch. I really like the cards because they're color and so, oh, it's the best game. I don't know. I think there's a lot of people that might disagree with you. Tony would be possibly one of those. I think Stratomatic Delaware, Chris. I think he likes Strat. Me, I'm. I've been watching Tony's inside pitch, and I like that. It's just I'm up. I just like to try new things. That's why I'm getting ready to try out the Glory Days boxing. Try myself in another sport. See how that works. Um, we have one out in the bottom of the fourth, and we have James Taylor batting. We'll take you back to the field so that you can see the roll of the dice. And we get a 15, which is an 11. Which is a single to left, and he steals on the pitch afterwards. So we got a man at second. Which brings up Shively with a man at second. And where is here? All right, Shively needs to get a hit here to tie the game up, and he's got a 65, which is a 35. And that is a foul out. Yeah, it's just a foul out to the shortstop. So that's 4. And that will put Brown up at the plate. Brown gets a 15, which is an 11. Oh, and that is a single to center. The runner will score, and the batter, single to center, runner will score. And Brown steals second on the next pitch. So Malarcher comes up with 1 strike on him. So we still have a man. So we have a man at second now. All right. So our score is now 2-2. We have a tie game here in the fourth. It's a tie game here. And Malarcher is up. And that is a 63, which will be a 31. And that is a fly out to center field. And that's the end of the fourth inning, which takes us to the fifth. And Bell will be up to plate. I got to make a few quick notate changes here real quick. Right. We're at the top of the fifth. if you look, the scoring is on the ticker. That's what I have on the ticker, Tony. And the inning is blazing at you in the big bold font there. It's the top of the fifth. And Bell is the batter. And he gets a 34, which is a 31. And that is a fly out to center field. Bankhead comes up. And that is a 66, which means we roll again. So what kind of hit does Bankhead get? And he gets a 64, which is a 2. And that is going to be a triple by Bankhead. Yes. The Pittsburgh faithful like that. That is a triple by Bankhead. And that will bring Page up with 1 out and a man at third. Let's see. Runner on. We're going to, I know this sounds crazy, but Page is going to bunt here. I'm trying something different. Page is going to try to bunt here. And he gets, you saw that, that's a 16. And on the 16, the man at third, and that says foul strike, or yeah, that's a strike. And so that's strike 1. 26. That's strike 2. And now he has to hit. And that's a 46, which was a 12. The man at third. And that's 46, which is a 12. And that says a double play. So the man at it's put out by the right fielder, and the right fielder to the catcher. Wow, that's interesting. So right fielder would be 7 and 7 to 2, and that is the end of the top of the fifth, which brings us to Dismukas for Indianapolis here. And we are now in the bottom of the fifth. And the score is all tied. And and that is a 51, and that is a walk. Yeah, that's a walk. Okay, and that will bring us back to our starting lineup with the Moss. Good to see Bobby in the chat tonight. I like your early morning walk videos and stuff, and your Valentine Christmas tree was, let's say, to say the least, it was inspiring. Runner on first. We've got Indianapolis. Yes, fielding one. All right, DeMoss gets a 56, which is a 34. And that is a 34. And see here. Yeah, 34. And that's a fly out to shortstop, which would be 6. And that puts Clark up at the plate. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Clark is at the plate. Man on. And that is 66 for Clark. It's a re-roll. And that is a 62. That will be a 6. The man at first. It says double over first, runner to the third. And if he's an F, runner scores. So we will see if Demucus is. I doubt if he's fast. Well, it says F. So yes, he is fast. That means Demucus will score. And that means we got a man at second. Clark is at second. Demucus scores. And that puts Indianapolis up 3-2. Right. That puts them up 3-2. And Watts is up with a man at second. Man at second. Let's see what we got. And we only have one out this inning. We got that was my mistake. It's a 25. And that's a 22 with a man at second. Fielding one. And it says runner steals and gets to third. So our runner is now at third. I mean, Watt gets another try at this. And that's a 42, which is a 13, and that is a strikeout. That's 2 away, and that brings up the first half of the Bass brothers. Ben Taylor. And that's a 25, which is a 10. So Clark will score. Clark will score, and then Clark on the third pitch steals second, so we have a man at second, and then score is now 4-2 in favor of Indianapolis. And that will bring up James Taylor with a man at second. 2 out. James Taylor up. And he gets a 51, which is a 10. 2 outs. He's a 10. And that's just 51, 10. Yeah, it says out at first, runner to third, but it's 2 outs. So that basically means that the putout is from the putouts at first by the first baseman. So after 5, the score is 4-2 Indianapolis. Brings up Williams for Pittsburgh. And we are now in the top of the 6th. With Williams up, nobody on. And that is a 31. And that is a 9. Grade A pitcher. And that's shortstop to first baseman. So that is 4-3. That will bring Perkins up to the plate. And that is 26. And that is a strikeout. I'll bring up Patterson. And that is a 42. And that is a 9. And that is an out. That's short. That's shortstop to first baseman. So that's a 6-3. And that takes us to the bottom of the 6th. And James Taylor. No. Okay, so I messed up there. Okay. So in the bottom of the 6th, we have James Taylor at the plate. With nobody on. Yeah. James Taylor here. And that's a 54. It's a 32. And that's a fly out the right field. And that is 7. which will bring Shively up. Yeah, and that's kind of why that's kind of why I think, Brian, that a lot of these, and even because of the time frame, a lot of the pitchers went the distance, not like they do now, where somebody gets behind like 2 or 3 runs, and they'll swap them out because they didn't have a lot of depth. A lot of times the pitcher stayed in, and that's not always the case with these older teams. And by older, I'm talking 1940 and the 40, the 30s, the 20s, and the 10s. The pitchers would play a lot of complete games, when nowadays it's very rare to have somebody pitch a complete game. All right. We're going back to the game. Shively batting with nobody on. And that is a 64. And that is a 9. Base is empty. And that's out at first. That's short to first. So that's a 6-3, which brings up Brown. And that is a 5-3, and which is a 16. And that's a fly out to center field. And that's the end of the 6th inning, which brings us to the top of the 7th. We're in the top of the 7th. And that was Brown. That's Archer. Okay. That brings Johnson to the plate for Pittsburgh. In the top of the 7th here. And that is a 41, which is a 24. And that is out at first, short to first. So that is 6-3. That brings up Charleston. That's a 16, which is a 28. And that is short to first as well, which brings up Crutchfield. $52 is a 27. And let's see here. Is he an X? No, he's not an X. He just has the Z. So that's third to first, and that will end the inning. And that, my friends, brings us to our favorite time, and that is the bottom of the 7th. Okay. Archer's up. And bottom of the 7th. Score is still 4-2. The ABCs. During this seventh inning stretch, right and left. We've had one home run for Pittsburgh in the first inning, and that counts for all their runs. And the rest of it is we had a couple singles in the second for Indianapolis first run. Their second run was a single, a stolen base, and then a single by Brown. That put them up 3-2. And then we got 2 in the fifth, and that makes it 4-2. And that's been our scoring for the most part. And we are in Indianapolis's half. But before we start the bottom of the seventh, our sponsors, the Phil's Friday Night Fights, would like to name the Friday Night Fight card for this Friday. We've got Ray Boom Boom Mancini versus Dooku Kim, and this fight changed a lot of the stuff regarding lightweight fights, because after this fight, only your lightweight fights are only 12 rounds. The second card of the night is Hector Camacho Macho and Philip Ndow or something like that. And I got that because it's kind of after my name, so that's interesting. And the lightweight bouts are going to be 12 rounds. The middleweight and the heavyweights are going to be 15. The first fighter in the middleweight is Eddie McGordy. The second is Rocky Graciano. Eddie's a tribute to my brother. I have an older brother named Eddie, so he's fighting kind of for the family. And Graciano there, of course, is for tribute to the Rocky fighting films. And finally, that was the third card of the night. And our fourth and final card is Ezra Charles versus Muhammad Ali. And like I said earlier, on my way to work on daily, I pass by Ezra Charles's old gym, and the way I can tell is they have a mural, kind of looks like a Neiman, one of those old Leroy Neiman sports prints, and it's of Ezra Charles. It's really nice. I want to get a picture of it so that I can show it to you all. And then, of course, Muhammad Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. And he's from Louisville, so that's the idea of Kentucky, in Ohio versus Kentucky and that. But enough with our sponsors, Phil's Friday Night Fights and Glory Days Boxing. Rob, if you're watching this, I wanted you to know there's my information. If anybody wants to email me, that's my information. Remember to click and subscribe click to subscribe for my channel, and click on push for the notifications so that you know when I'm on and when I'm doing a broadcast of any kind. And Rob, let me know what kind of traits that I get to choose from, because I'm going to be one of his new drivers for the new season of his red, white, and blue racing. I need to know what kind of traits that I get to select from, and that. And Rob, I really want you here Friday because I'm going to have to probably need your help as far as reading the dice and knowing what's what. I am going to read the instructions and try to figure it out, but it's always nice to have a friend. And Anthony, if you're free and can which is the idea of Bleacher Bums Gaming, if you're free and can make the bout, that would be much appreciated as well. And with all that being said, it's time to go back to the game. We got Malarcher in the bottom of the 7th here. Let's see what he gets. He gets a 54, which is a 32. That's fielding 1. And that's fly out to the right fielder. That's not good. And that brings up this Mucus. And he gets a 13, which is also a 13. So that's a strikeout for Demucus, which brings up DeMoss. And that is a 66 for DeMoss. What will he possibly get a home run? We'll see here. And that is a 55, which is a 2 in the second column, which is a triple to left center. All right. DeMoss gets a triple. Which brings up Clark. And that's a 16, which is a 28, with a man at third. Man at third. It says runner out at home, so that is shortstop to second baseman, and that will put an end to the inning, and that means Clark's, let me see that again. That's 16, 28. Yeah, that's pretty much. That's short to first baseman, basically. That's 6-3. And so the run doesn't score. And that means Watts will be up in the next inning. And that brings Bell up to the plate for Pittsburgh. All right. Bell is up. The score's 4-2 ABCs. And let's see what goes. We get a 35, which is a 9. Grade A pitcher. That's shortstop to first baseman. That's a 6-3. Perkins is up. Perkins is up. Come on, Perkins. Let me see here. Okay, there we go. That's the reason why. Perkins is up. And that's 64, which is 38. And with the bases empty, 38. That is a ball. Roll again. 15. That is an 8. Let's fly out the third baseman. 2 up, 2 down. Patterson up to 35, which is an 8. That's another fly out to the third baseman. And that ends the top of the 8th, brings us to the bottom of the 8th. And that will bring up Watts. $44, and that is an 8. I have to fly out the third baseman. Third baseman's catching a lot here. Brings up Taylor, Benjamin Taylor. 53, and that is a 19. And that is an error on the third baseman. It's an E5. So that gives us a runner at first. And James Taylor comes up. And that is a 22, which is an 8 with a runner at first. That's an out at first. Pitcher to first baseman, and the runner goes to second. So we now have a runner at second, 2 outs, and Shively is up. And that is 35, and that is an 8 with a runner at second. And that is out at first. That's third to first. All right. And okay. That takes us to the top of the 9th inning. With Johnson at the plate. The Pittsburgh Crawfords are down 4-2. And that's a 62. And it's just a 32. And with bases empty, that's a fly out to right field, which will bring Charleston up. That's a 51, which is an 8. And it's a fly out to the third baseman. Crutchfield is up. Down to our last batter here. And that is a 1. I mean, that's basically a re-roll. Had to look at the second column for this. So Crutchfield, that's a leaner. We can't accept that. And that is a 55. On the second column is a 2 with nobody on, and that is a triple to center. So Crutchfield gets a triple to center to keep this alive. That puts Bell up to the plate. And that is a 15, which is an 11, with a man on third. And that is a single to center. And the runner steals second on the first pitch. So Bell drives in a run here and makes the score 4-3 in favor of the ABC. And we're still down to our last batter with a man at third. Or wait a minute, sorry, with a man at second. Man at second. Man at second. Down to the last batter. Bankhead needs to get a hit. Gets a 34, which is a 31. And that, my friends, will end the game with a fly out to center field. And that was another exciting game. The Pittsburgh Crawfords tried to come back in the 9th and could not do it. Let's see here. Let's check something out. DeMucas had 1, 2, 3, 4. DeMucas had 4 strikeouts, and Page had 1, 2, 3 strikeouts. So close. 4 strikeouts to 3 strikeouts. Both pitchers went the distance. It's possible that you might say that Page should have come out when it was 4-2, which would have been in the 5th. But they tended to let pitchers, if they were up 1 or 2 at that stage, like I said earlier, they would let them play. Yeah, and it was a very good game, and I like these games because I've had 2 of them, and you saw so far, if you've watched both of these, you would think that, like, Page, I mean, this was my second consecutive time using Page, but he didn't pull off 2 wins in a row, which is interesting, But the Indianapolis ABCs guys win this. The 1960s, they win this one. They win this one by a score of 4-3 in 9 innings. My next broadcast will probably be the Friday night fights on Friday, and that will be at 8 p.m. Go back and watch this because I gave commercials for it twice. So take a look at that, or watch my Pavilion number 13, and it'll tell you the lineup, the 4 carded fights for that fight. Thank you for being with me. I hope that all your dice rolls are home runs, and you get what you want. And know that I love you. God loves you. And I will see you Friday night. Rob, if you're watching this, I want you to be there because I'm going to need help interpreting the cards. And Anthony from Bleacher Buns Gaming, if you're watching this, I would like for you to be there as well for the exact same reason. And I will see you all Friday night. And it's been another wonderful Negro League game. A run difference was the score of the game. And let's see here. That run was in the 5th inning. So yeah. And it's more like hitting was the result of the wins today. So you guys take care. Take care, Sean. Take care, Steve and Brian and Bobby and all those who are on. And I will see you on Friday.